How's everything been going up there for you guys?
It's been pretty good. We got our guys back a few weeks ago. They quarantined. I think Dartmouth did a really good job of testing the guys. They sent them tests to their house, tested right when they got back. So we're good, man. We're rolling. We got workouts, individual workouts, and they've been lifting, conditioning. So fingers crossed.
Man, it's one of them things where nobody really knows, but we're hoping and we're staying prayerful, hopeful, positive, right? And just pushing forward.
Yeah. How do you think football is going so far?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I haven't really talked about it publicly. I haven't talked about it publicly because, just there's so many different people that have different, feelings and opinions about it. But, like NFL, now they're canceling games, pushing games back. And these are people that have the ability to test regularly, right? And have the ability to, get the highest level of care, the highest level of treatment, the highest level of everything. And if it's not working there, right, and you have these positive tests and you have games being pushed back and things like that, imagine how many games should not be taking place at the high school level or should be getting, rescheduled or pushed back. It isn't because the testing's not there. The level of treatment and the level of assessment is not there. So it's kind of scary from my standpoint. It's scary to think about, the fact that we do have high school sports going on and, everything's kind of, almost business as usual. And I talked to somebody about it earlier today because I had an event scheduled. And they were like, hey, there's still leagues going on. There's stuff going on. You didn't have to cancel your events. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have to. But, I just, at the end of the day, I wanted to be on the right side of history with that. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
So it's been interesting.
Yeah, there is a liability piece involved with any event that's going on, and people are just, it's about the dollars, unfortunately. So there were AAU events, as you know, in the Southeast all through the summer, even the early spring. I mean, Atlanta, Texas, Arizona, they were hosting events like with parents and families. Yep. So here we are.
Well, I had that conversation with somebody yesterday, and I told him, I said, I don't see NCAA letting you guys out this year. Like, I just don't see it happening. Everybody wants to, they want to be positive and say, okay, we're going to get an opportunity to get coaches back on campus and, viewing high school prospects and recruiting. But the reality is, you guys, like you say, you've done a great job. You sent tests out. You got testing going on. Imagine you going on the road, being in a gym, however many, right, whether there's one other person there or 100 other people there, there's exposure. You can't come right back into the team. There has to be some level of quarantine, right? So just the risks associated with it, I don't see recruiting happening as we know it this year. I think it's going to be very, very different. I feel for the underrated and the kind of under-recruited kids within the 2021 class. 2022 they'll be all right because I think that we'll be back to normal with summer hopefully by next year. But I don't see it happening business as usual this season with you guys getting out. I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Our league is always going to be the most cautious and do a ton of research and listen to the right people because it's not about the bottom line. So I agree with you, and I'm probably one of the rare or few Division I coaches that will say that. We're ready to go, ready to get in these bubbles and start playing. So.
Right. So I'm excited to talk to you. Your name really started to first of all, everybody always says to me, "Oh, Justin Bradley." I'm like, no, that's like So for probably 30 years of my life, I've been correcting people that my name's not Bradley. So I can't remember how it came up. I was sitting around with some guys, and somebody kept saying, "You guys know Justin Bradley?" And I'm thinking they're like trying to introduce me, right? Like I'm like, man, like really, you know me this long, you don't know my name? He's like, no, I'm talking about the guy. He's at Dartmouth. I'm like, oh. So it was funny there. And then on the heels of that, I saw, you get elevated to associate head coach.
Yeah.
And I'm always intrigued by the Ivy League. I visited Harvard a couple times. Tommy Amaker is a great guy. His staff's great. But I've always been intrigued by it because I constantly coach and talk to the guys that I work with or help navigate the recruiting process about it being bigger than basketball,
Sure.
and using the game of basketball as a vehicle to open doors to opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have. And I had a kid, a couple years back, and Harvard offered him. They really liked him. He's really, really good player. He's going to play football. He's playing football at Michigan State right now. But he was a really good basketball player. Probably had a chance to play on both sides, could play football and basketball, which is something that I felt, if it could happen anywhere, the Ivy League's a great place for that, just because of the way that the scheduling works and you're not playing in bowl games and things like that. But I digress. My whole point is I push towards those high academic settings for student athletes that can handle it academically, because at the end of the day, the air is coming out of the ball. So I was so intrigued by you and you being in that setting and thriving within that setting, that high academic setting. And I think that, we're in a different phase of America right now where, we talk about systemic racism. We talk about, all of the different challenges that our young Black men face. And all I can think about is a high academic education and a high academic opportunity and the opportunities that could afford the young Black men, and having somebody like yourself that they can look up to and see and say, okay, well, hey, he's associate head coach at Dartmouth. Like, wow, anything's possible. And then they look further and say, okay, Tommy Amaker's a head coach at Harvard. There's a place for us, right? There's a seat at the table. So super intrigued to talk to you, super excited to have the conversation. I'm proud of you. Like without even having a strong relationship, I'm like, man, like that's from here on out, when somebody confuses me for Justin Bradley, I'm be like, no, that's not me, but there's a dope brother at Dartmouth. Like,
no, man, thank you. Thank you. No, thanks for the kind words. And I've done a lot of research on what you've done and over your career. And I've listened to on YouTube the guys before me that have done this. And I'm like, man, for me to be asked I'm really thankful, because, you got Dwayne Stevens on here. You got Coach Baldwin. You got Coach Grant. I'm like, wow. Like, I listened to those recently. And so I'm really appreciative.
Man, it's a journey, right? And, I've been blessed to encounter some people that I feel like have a story that people need to hear. And, I was literally talking about this yesterday. I was having a conversation. I have a daily meeting for just the things I need to accomplish that day with my manager. And we sit down and we talk about some things. And one of the things that her and I talked about yesterday was, when you're in a room or when you're sitting at a table, a lot of times we like to feel like, man, I'm humbled to even be in this room, right? I'm humbled to be a part of this. But, I'll tell you, you belong in that group just as much as any of those other guys. And, they've been doing it a lot longer, right? They've been coaching for 30 years, right? And you're in that group, that 30 under 30, right? But I think that your story, your leadership, your example that you're setting is just as powerful. And I'm excited to talk about it. So one of the things that, as I was reading up on you, you were a student assistant coach or a player coach. Talk to me, like what was that, and how did that work out? And is that something you always wanted to do?
No, I think, thanks. That's a great question. I think I'm one of the few coaches that will say, I wasn't born knowing I wanted to be a coach. I didn't know since the age of 12 that this was my calling. It sort of happened in college. So I played 2 years and then had an injury. And then that led me to coaching. And that was completely due to my college coach just allowing me to help out with the team and, do some things. And I think a lot of coaches, when they were playing, if they played, were the guys that would, come early, stay late, do extra. They were the captains on the team. So I think that's a common thread between all of us. But he saw that. He knew who I was. I'd work on my own shot, but I'd always bring two guys with me. Hey, let's get in the gym. Let's do this. So that's really how it happened.
Awesome, awesome. And from there, you graduated. You went on to NCCU.
Yeah.
Coach Moten, obviously, I mean, he's been a leader within the industry, a leader within the culture. I constantly look to his, whether it be his tweets, whether it be videos. Him and I spoke a couple times. But talk to me a little bit about that first job, that first opportunity, and how it kind of shaped and molded your coaching career.
No, absolutely. I call him LaVell. I've known him for a long time. He was actually my middle school coach. So
Wow.
I've known him in the time that I went to middle school till I graduated college. He became a Division I head coach. So his rise was pretty quick, and he's done obviously a fantastic job. So my 2 years there were unbelievable, quite frankly. We won a lot of games, but what I was able to learn from him every single day, to sit with him one-on-one, to learn not only the game of basketball, but the business, to how important it is to present myself a certain way. And then not only working for LaVell, which was terrific, the staff we had was amazing. Brian Berg, who's the head coach at Georgia Southern now, he was an assistant there. Another guy's a Division II head coach. So, we had a really good staff. We had good support staff, and we won a lot. And, just you get the social media, Coach Moten, but, I got it every single day, and that's who he is every day.
Awesome. Awesome. And, with that experience and with having that as your starting point, or the point to really kick off the career, this is your second stint at Dartmouth. So talk to me a little bit about the Ivy League path and going the Ivy League route. Obviously, a lot of people don't really understand, the Ivies, right? Like
Sure.
it's definitely challenging, not only finding the right student athletes, but, kind of the mixture of a whole bunch of different things in order to be successful within the Ivy League. So talk to me a little bit about that, the challenges that you face recruiting and coaching, and, some of the joys of it.
Yeah, I think you hit it, right on the head. I think there's a lot of misconceptions with the Ivy League that, rightfully or wrongfully so, a lot of people just don't know. They just aren't educated on, how we recruit. I think any coach that we talk to, whether it's a high school coach or AAU coach, or, they assume you need a 4.0 and a perfect SAT or ACT, which isn't the case. A lot of people don't know there aren't athletic scholarships in the Ivy League. So there are a lot of challenges. And I think educating coaches, educating families, educating the guys that we're recruiting is a big part of our job, because we have such a powerful brand that we're not really selling. We're just educating people like, hey, this is what it is. Do you like this? Do you want this? Is this something you're interested in? And it's very easy to talk about. It's a terrific place and a great institution, and what we're building here, I feel really, really good about.
Tell me a little bit about Dartmouth. Tell me a little bit about what a Dartmouth basketball player looks like to you. Tell me about what you look for. And then also, what you would say kind of are the advantages of going to a Dartmouth or going to an Ivy.
Sure. Yeah. It's definitely my job as a recruiting coordinator to have an idea of what we want, and guide the staff for the type of talent that we can get here. A lot of people, again, the education piece is, a lot of people don't know the Ivy League was a top 15 league in the country. There's 32 Division I conferences. The Ivy League has been as high as 10, and it's been hovering in the 12 to 15 range. So, yes, the academics are important in terms of admission, in terms of success over your 4 years or however many years that you're here, but we also need some really good basketball players. And we make that very, very clear that it's, you are a student athlete, and both are equally as important. And our jobs are to find the best combination of guys that can do both. We want guys that understand or have some understanding of what this means. And that might come from them, that might come from a coach, that might come from a trainer. People, there's a lot of people involved in the recruiting process. So we have to get everyone on board, just like any other league or school would, to say, yes, you need to do this. This makes sense for you, not only for the next 4 years, but for the next 40.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I constantly have that conversation with my student athletes. It's not about the next 4 years; it's about the next 40, and what that education and that experience and the relationships built there can provide for your life, long after the game of basketball. So I think that, while there are some unique challenges to coaching at an Ivy League school, there's some unique advantages to attending an Ivy League school. There's some unique advantages to coaching and being able to and recruiting student athletes to an Ivy League school, because there's things that that you can offer that others just quite frankly can't. So there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of options and a lot of opportunities there. As you've made the rise. You came in as assistant, now you're associate head coach. You're still very young in your career. Talk to me a little bit about the work that's gone into that, and how you've kind of carved your own path within the Ivy League, within Dartmouth, and to be one of the top coaches in the country at a young age.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's weird hearing someone else say that, but I think the biggest thing is just being very intentional and strategic about what you want to get out of coaching, or what you want to do, whether that's, I want to work in this type of school, in this type of setting. And I think I did that early on, which allowed me to have this opportunity. Because as you know, from your experiences, there's not a lot of guys that go from the MEAC to the Ivy League. I know two, and I don't know many. I know of two. I don't know many others. So, it's definitely a different end of the spectrum in terms of academics, in terms of resources, in terms of, what we're selling or communicating to families and kids. And, I think, this is a league that I wanted to work in. I knew that at North Carolina Central. I knew that at Guilford College when I was playing, when I was coaching, and I just did everything in my power to build those connections and ultimately land a position and work my way up.
For sure. And I think that, a lot of the premise that I spoke on over the last year of my career, and a lot of the focal point or the focus that I've put is on, Black coaches, especially young Black coaches, not being pigeonholed as just recruiters, and the work that they put into, developing as a coach, developing as a, as a business person, developing as a leader, developing as an X and O guy. All of those things are true. And when I look at you, I guess my question for you would be, what is the landscape like, or what has it been like navigating the landscape of being a minority, not only being a Black coach, which obviously we've heard it, it's talked about a lot of times, it's not discussed as much, but being a Black assistant coach, being a young Black assistant coach, and how is that magnified, being in the Ivy League setting? Are there different unique challenges that you experience, and how do you go about your business every day, making sure that perception is, not only, hey, he's a great young Black coach, but he's an amazing coach in general?
Yeah, I think, no, that's an amazing question. I think being in this league and having the label that it has, which is the highest academics, I think, there's automatically an assumption about me as a coach. And one of the things that I've done is to have those conversations prior to taking any job that I've ever had, which is to, I'm going to be able to recruit. I've proven that I can do that I know how important it is to the success of any program, but I also want to be involved in these things. And I know what those things are. It's scheduling, it's the offense, it's the defense, it's the academics. Yes, we have smart guys, but they're 18 and 19 and 20. They need some help. They need some guidance. And so I want to be a part of all of that. The meetings, can I, sit in with you on a head coach's call, or, those are the things that I ask from my bosses and all of the jobs that I've had. And, thankfully, they've allowed me to have my hands in all parts of the program. And to answer your question, I don't take my position here lightly. When I was a third assistant, I didn't take it lightly. And when I'm the associate head coach now, not much has changed day to day, but I understand how it looks to the outside world. And, I'll do whatever I can to help anyone else out or to have any conversation about moving within your organization, moving somewhere else. And, I think it's really, really important, especially, as our team has gotten a lot more diverse. So, we've got 10 minority players on the team right now. And I think it's important for them to see me, not only in the work that I do, but for my boss to give me the status and the title associated with the work that was being done.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And it's funny because I was talking to Coach Kevin Sutton earlier. And so when I put together, so I had obviously the first 7 episodes, and I racked my brain on who those first 7 were going to be. Right. And then I put together the next 7, and I'm telling you, when you see this next 7, I'm impressed. I'm excited for it, but was talking to Coach Sutton, and we were talking about, living trophies, and we were talking about, the things that he does. And, we had a conversation towards the end of our call, and I mentioned you. And he said, yeah, he's in my masterclass Zoom. He's in, he's always learning. He was always, and it let me know that your name being in this group of 7 was the right place for it to be, where, it's clearly behind the closed doors, behind the scenes, you're doing a lot of work to advance your career and to be the best version of you can be. Talk to me about the value of having somebody like Coach Sutton to bounce things off or listen to, and other mentors. What are some other people that you've kind of leaned on along the way, and have kind of guided you as you've grown?
Man, it's every Thursday I was on a call with Coach Sutton last night. So, it's listening to CY speak. So I know it's one of your former guests as well. So it's nice to it all to come full circle. But, it's amazing. I didn't play at a high level. I didn't have a great career. So I've had to go above and beyond to build relationships, uh, not for a job, but to learn, to develop, to gain that wisdom, to gain some understanding of how does this go. Like if I was opening my own business, I would say, like if I was opening a coffee shop, I would look at all the really good coffee shops in the area or in the country. What are they doing? Call those guys or women to figure out, what are the pros and cons of running a coffee shop. I would do that. So I approach this career the same way. Yes, I've had some great mentors, and my first year out of college, I'm a director of operations. We go to the NCAA tournament, and I'm on top of the world. So LaVell Moten, definitely one of my mentors, and someone that I talk to weekly is Brian Berg, as I mentioned as well. But I've, been again very intentional about emailing, writing letters, calling, hopping on a Zoom if I'm recruiting, stopping by a college that's in the area, and watching a practice. So, and that's something that I did when I was a Division III assistant, and that's something that I continue to do as well. I haven't reached the status that I'm too big to learn. I'm
Right.
never too good. I always want to learn, and I've heard CY talk 3 times in the last 2 months, and the one thing that I appreciate about him is he's always going to be authentic, and the message was the same on all 3 calls, and it was so important and so valuable. And he is who he is. He's obviously one of the best coaches in the country for a reason. And then guys like Coach Sutton, like on paper, he doesn't have a tremendous amount of collegiate experience, but the high school level recruiting, having really good players, being at the places that he's been, which was all tremendous places, Pittsburgh, Georgetown, Rhode Island, and knowing how he's able to be successful, but also be approachable and authentic is something that I strive to be.
For sure, for sure. And I think about, you mentioned CY, and, the one thing that I love the most about CY, and it's something that I had to learn over the years of my life as I got older, to not run from or not hide from, the mistakes or the shortcomings. And
Sure.
CY talks about, when on our interview, he was very, very honest and open about, where he could have evolved a little bit quicker, or where he wishes that he would have, been a little bit more willing to ask for help, or willing to be open and honest about not knowing things that he knew that he needed. And he talked about success coming fast. So, it's good to have those kind of people to hear and listen to and bounce things off. Success has come pretty fast for you, right? But I think that, I think everybody's definition and idea of success is a little different. So, one of the things that I've heard, and I've heard it, several times as you've talked, is, being intentional. So, as you've gone about your career intentionally, what has your idea of success like? What does that look like to you? What are you striving to become, and what is the goal that you've set for yourself?
Yeah, I think, not to be cliche in the coach speak, but Coach Wooden always talked about, John Wooden always talked about just being your best, being the best that you can be. There's a lot of coaches' books out there where the message is it's you versus you. And that's very hard to focus on in this business because everyone's always jockeying for a position, even on the same staff. Your head's on a swivel constantly, like, who's getting this job? Can I do this? Does this make sense? But I think it's something that's really important to me to always be intentional with anything that we do, because that's something that I require of the players, is to don't just jog over to set a screen. Like, you need to be intentional, set the screen to get that person open. And, those are things that anything I'm telling to my guys, I'm going to hold myself to the same standard and accountability.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. I'll tell you, without a doubt, like I said, I said it coming into our chat, and I feel it now even more. I'm proud of you because you are an example of the possibilities that exist. And, I feel like 20 years ago, when I was in high school and, playing in my high school playing career, and I went to University of Illinois and I transferred to Howard. So I've experienced the MEAC life. But, never in my wildest imagination, you would hear your mother, your father say, hey, you could go to the Ivy League school, or you could be whatever you want to be. You can go to Harvard, you can go to, and there just wasn't that representation, right? Like, there wasn't that, when you looked on the flyers, or when you looked on the website, when you looked on the coaching staff, there was nobody really that I could relate to.
Right.
And now seeing, I think that it's vitally important for, young Black men and women to have and see that representation, and the way that you carry yourself, the way that you're leading. I think that without a doubt, you're a beacon of hope. You're a light for, that next generation to understand that, they're not just limited to, the Power 5 programs. They're not just limited to the MEAC. There's options and opportunities for them all over. So I'm excited to see your career continue to grow and blossom. And anything I can ever do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me, man. Like, there's not, I'm not gonna pretend like I've got all the juice in the world, but if there's anything I can do, man, you've got an ally in me for sure.
Yeah, just anytime there's a player that you're thinking of sending to Tommy, just give me a call right after, and then we'll make it work. So,
and I think that's one of the things I'm most excited and hopeful about this platform and your interview. And I'm going to reach out to Tommy as well, try and get him on. But kids seeing the option, the opportunity, right? And,
yep.
It shouldn't be a hard sell for me, with EYBL kids, or with, like these high level players. Hey, this isn't 1995, right? Like, if you're going to be a pro, you can be a pro from wherever, whether it be Dartmouth, whether it be Duke, you know what I mean? Like, whether it be, Harvard, or whether it be Florida State, if you're a pro, and Seth Towns has shown us that, right? So I think that for me, the examples and the possibilities of, more options and more opportunities in getting that high academic education and experience. Because I think the experience is important too, because it prepares our young men and young women for life in the corporate world, life in in America that doesn't quite look like them, right? And
Right.
if we've only known one thing and one side, and we haven't seen a full, broad scale, broad scope or spectrum, it's difficult. And when challenges come our way, we're more, we're a little bit more more shooken up than we would be if we had those diverse opportunities of inclusion and advancement when we were younger. So I definitely think that you guys have something special within the Ivy League. I think that you have something special going on there at Dartmouth, and you might be my first call, and then I'll call Tommy next. I'll tell Tommy, hey, you don't need a you don't need a head start, Tommy.
No, he doesn't need any help.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to holler at me.
Thanks a lot.
Time's the most valuable asset in the world. So, having you be willing to give of your time means a lot. Like I said, I mean, I was up your way. What is the name of the school? I can't think. There's one of my one of the kids I worked with. He was going to a prep up your way, and I can't even think of the name of it right now. But I always come up like I'm at Northfield, Mount Herman.
Oh yeah, right around.
Yeah, so once everything dies down and we're back on the road, I'll definitely stop in and see you, because I'd love to see the facilities. I'd love to see you guys practice. And I'm just like you, man. Like, I'm constantly poking my head in if I'm in the area, watching and getting to know people, building relationships, because it's never been for me about a job. It's always been for me about, okay, hey, how can I help somebody else, right? And I might bump into a kid that says, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And, I got the perfect guy. Let me make the call. So that's always been my mission and my vision. So I'll definitely come see you guys.
No, please do. We're right near New Hampton, Vermont Academy, Northfield. We're within 2 hours of any of the prep schools. You're going to make it up to Brewster. Come on down. Open door.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.